kind of disappointing. And we're not the only ones. I mean,
Should have brewed some coffee this afternoon.
all the restaurants, I mean, they're all putting up the same crowd. So,
Take work out at 3 o'clock.
hey, we got a good crowd tonight. Wonder
Well,
what
after
we did
I
wrong.
think it was about 3 o'clock, the lightning clapped and it woke both of us up. And I said, well, how long before the girls come in? And they were right there. This time we'll call the meeting to order. Is there anyone here that'd like to offer an invocation?
Robert, isn't that why you're here? No, never mind.
What's that?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sure you feel like you work here as about as much as we do now. As per the commissioner's request, there will be an executive session. I'm assuming you still want that
Yes,
for
ma'am.
non-elected personnel.
This time, the first order of business is approval of minutes. We can do this collectively with the September 20th, September 25th, and September 26th meetings. We can do them as a whole, or we can do them individually.
I'll move to approve the minutes of September 20th, the 25th, and the 26th special meetings.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner second by Commissioner Parker to approve the minutes of September 20th, 2017 meeting and September 25th and 26th special meetings. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to financial matters, appropriation ordinance 18.
Yeah, check number 1057894, the hood heating and plumbing for $12,754.95. Was that part of the walkway, or is that something else?
Let's see, 7,867 of it was the air conditioner and
The
fire
new one?
department.
The new one that we, okay.
And the other?
Water?
Lights on the water tower.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I'm not usually a numbers guy, but that one stuck out. Chance to ask a good question.
those lights look nice.
It's pretty sharp.
I move to approve appropriation ordinance number 18.
Second?
It's been moved by Commissioner Hash and seconded by Commissioner Parker to approve appropriation ordinance number 18. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to public comments. At this time, we would open the floor to anyone in the audience who would like to step forward and make a public comment. If you could please introduce yourself.
My name is Gary Dvorak. I'm a resident of Concordia for about 20 years. I live on the edge of town. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. You invited us to come and make public comments today.
Yes.
Commissioners, if I may, start with a question. When is a tax not a tax? When you call it a fee. Now, $24 a year isn't going to break anybody. I agree. But, and you get to say your mill levy is low because you've added fees. You've added a $10 fee to the water bill already for the wastewater treatment plant, and I can agree with that. But I would encourage you not to go to the well too often. I don't mind the $24, but I caution you about using this as an option. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Charles Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, I have the same problem that Mr. Bork had there. It's, your state budget limits you to how many mill levies, or what your mill levy increase can be. This circumvents that. You're not going to the public and having them, or letting them have any voice in it, other than coming here and making one statement. If you got above your, what is it, 1.5% above the rate of inflation on your state budget form, and this circumvents that. It works also like sales tax. Once it's there, it doesn't go away. The $10 fee on that water bill was for the development of the plans, not for the payment or repayment of the bonds. It was. You've also passed a bond issue for the development or reconstruction of the plant out there. So you're paying for it with a different method than it would be if you had to go into your bond issue or your state budget level. I think the Commissioner Hash said $24, and he's also mentioned it wouldn't break anybody. But there's a number of people in town on fixed incomes that $24 is very significant to. What was it, 4, 5, 6 years ago, we did a survey, and over 50% of the population in your town was below the poverty level. You got the city, what, a $200,000 grant to buy a new ambulance? Because the people don't have that kind of revenue. Their income level isn't that high. But if you put the $2 on, then that shifts the whole load over to the residential section. The business section downtown will pay it. And if it's like you say, you're going to put in a system where we will attract people to town to help business, the residents have to pay the whole bill and they reap the benefits. And we also have a deal with our water billing system. The major water users in the town get a cheaper rate than homeowners get. So most of this is, as the mayor said on the radio this morning, it's a slick way of doing it. You're getting around what the regulations are to protect the public from the slick ways of doing it. So my advice would be to go back and do it as a bond issue if that's what it takes. But let's do it in front of the public and not behind the back, where most of the people won't have any input into it. Thank you. You got any questions?
No, I just like to add one thing, Charles. We are going after people's opinion, because that's one thing.
Well, I know
we
you're
insist
going
on.
after them, but
And-
you're not
well,
going to get them.
No, not just here, but the survey's going into the water bills. People.
Oh,
and
is it going to go?
Pardon me?
It's the
water
discussion for
bills,
tonight.
The survey's
Oh,
going
well,
into
I
the
thought
water
it was going
bills.
to go in
asking-
last time and it wasn't there.
Well, no, it's coming into the new one.
Okay.
And-
It was too late, Charles.
Well, you can get rid of my water bill. and I
Right,
don't
no,
have
but,
anything
no,
to
it is coming in the new ones.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
that's one thing,
No,
I
that's
want to
fine.
know what kind of percentage of people are for this. And I'll agree with you, it is a tax.
Well, $24, what's a mill levy raise? About
26.
26,000, is it? Something like that? So you put on 2 mil tax or $1.50.
I just want to, Joe, we're not going behind the back, we're going to the voters on this.
Well,
Voters,
but you've
people are
gone
paying
behind their
on
back in the fact that when we passed the $10 fee, it was only to pay for the planes.
That's
I
not
disagree
entirely
with you
accurate.
there, Charles, that is not what the intent was. I would actually like to see the language on that, but that is not the way I remember it.
Well, I do remember it that way, and I have the minutes of the meeting.
Well,
There was quite a bit of debate on it. But that's where it's going, and that is what? The 10 mil, or $10, or $20, $10 a month fee will raise enough, that would be about a 4, 5, 6 mil levy, if it raises about 26,000. And
So-
that's outside your state budget, so you've circumvented that part of the protection the legislature gave us. Yeah,
I appreciate you being here. I appreciate anyone here that's willing to make a public comment. That invitation is extended every week. No decision regarding anything that's been discussed thus far has been made outside of this public meeting. Every decision that's been made moving forward with the water treatment plant, the discussion with the pool, is happening in a very public and inviting environment. Nothing
Well-
illegal has been done. We are authorized to increase fees to our utility bills to pay for certain items. It's not something that's been usurping the legislative process. It's a part of the charge that we have as a city to do what we need to do to make things work without going.
Well, that's always
so-
an interpretation of what you think there is going on. You
Well,
know,
ultimately,
your
I-
water bill, the whole system for the water, or part of our budget is outside the state budget, so you can do anything you want to with it. And, you know, it's cash cow,
But
Always-
with that said, we did,
always has been.
survey is going out to every citizen.
Yes.
So,
So we're gonna have an answer from them.
well, hopefully you do.
Well, if we don't, and then.
You know, it's
then
just like
shame on them.
How many people here?
Well, if they don't answer the
Upset about it.
survey, it's in their bill. They open up the envelope and it's there.
Yeah.
And if they can't put yes or no on it and get it back, then shame on them.
Well, that's very true. Shame on them. But you don't get very many people at a public meeting because it's intimidating.
I appreciate that confidence in me, Charles.
Right.
I've never been known to be an intimidating person, but I,
Well, it's why people don't come. And when I first went on the commission, you know, there was a little sign on your paper up there that said, in public comments, people get up and they had to speak civilly. Whatever, I can't really think of the terminology, but the commissioners would not respond. And pretty much over the city even yet, people don't get much response. But then, you know, they don't like to come to public meetings either.
And
I can appreciate
Charles-
that.
Charles,
Can't blame them.
the last league conference, they talked about that. And a lot of cities have decided that it's time for them to reach out to the public, to go to different neighborhoods and talk to them, to get their opinion, because you're right, they don't come here.
Yeah.
And that's something we've been discussing here to do as well.
Well, you've got a long way to go because you've got a real hurdle to get over.
Well, starting
tell
with
you.
that survey is a big start right
Well, but
there.
I mean to get the public to participate in it.
Well,
You know, that's.
And
can only offer an
Charles,
invitation.
You know, when I'm out talking to people, I talk to a lot of people through my business and stuff. I've probably asked 15 people what they thought of this. So if you think we all just have this lock set, what we're gonna do, that is not true. We are all looking to see what the opinions of the city people are.
Well, I think you're looking and you're gonna find lots of different opinions. My objection isn't to the increasing or fixing the swimming pool, it's the method that you're raising the fees to do it. And that, you know, the state legislature passed a law saying to protect the public from bond issues. So now you're circumventing that. The only other way you have to raise money is through taxes, ad valorem tax. And this circumvents that. Thank you.
Appreciate your concern. Others who'd like to make a public comment?
Sounds like the topic of the night, but, and no, I'm not intimidated by you guys. I've known many of you since I was a wee little lad, so.
Good.
Ryan Carnes, born and raised here. I did move away for a period of time, but I guess I kind of want to represent the little bit younger sect in regards to the swimming pool issue. First time it was being discussed, I was just about ready to move back to town, and I'd heard about it and was kind of asking, you know, why do we need a new pool? Everybody says we need a new pool. I think the pool we got is pretty great. And I was very happy here in the last several months to hear the commissioners, you know, talk of a very sound mind of, hey, why are we going to invest in a new pool when everybody else has got water slides and everything else? We're not going to draw people from other communities. I don't really think that we are. And even so, if we're giving it away for free, they're coming here for the free stuff and then they're going to go back home. I don't see it being a huge benefit. I mean, Tim might sell some tacos up there at Taco John's and stuff like that, but I just have concerns about giving it all away for free. And the other thing is, from my experience, when you give stuff away for free, people don't seem to respect it that much or take care of it. And I'm not saying that the people in our community won't want to take care of it, but there are other people that really take advantage of that. And so I do have some concerns in regards to that. My other concern is this is a swimming pool that's open 2 months out of the year. You know, this is a huge dollar amount that we're talking about spending over the next few years, which I do like the idea of it because, you know, I have lots of nieces and nephews and they do go swim in the pool. But I just have concerns about what's wrong with our pool that we have now. Let's face it, the younger generation doesn't go to the swimming pool like you guys did, or you guys probably even more so than me. It was probably already waning by the time I got to be old enough to go swim in the pool. But there's just so many other things the young kids are doing. You know, is this the best investment of community dollars? I mean, I'll be honest with you, and what I'm up here to stand up here and talk about is the two things. One, the water bill here. I recently moved back there about 2 years ago. The water bill here is double what I paid living in a big city. And I understand a lot of it has to do with we're a smaller community and you don't spread that tax debt out over a smaller amount of people, but it's literally double what it cost me when I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska. But one of the other concerns that I have, in addition to it being double, I've lost my train of thought where I was heading with this, is just, you know, the fact of why aren't we, actually, I know where I was heading with this. My big concern is that I didn't really want to leave this community when I left, when I was about 28. The big reason why I left this community was I ran out of options for jobs. I was kind of stuck. There just were not opportunities here for young people. I mean, there were some opportunities, but I have a little bit higher education level, and it was just very limited. I had to wait. As I tell people, I had to either wait for somebody to retire or die in order to move up in the world in Concordia, Kansas. And it's no pun against the town, but I had to move to advance myself. And I'll be very blunt, it took me 3 years to figure out how to move back. I wanted to move back due to family. Parents are getting older, nieces and nephews, I wanted to spend time with them. And it took me 3 years of looking to secure a job in the area, and I'm not even working in Concordia. I commute outside of Concordia to have a job in the area. So my thing is why don't we spend money on things that are gonna bring jobs to town? You know, we got a hospital that I think could use a revitalization. I know that kind of went through before, and I was not living here when that all transpired. But you know, we used to have one of the best hospitals in North Central Kansas. People used to travel for miles to come here. We no longer have that. I don't think a swimming pool is going to bring all these people to town, you know, to live here. Jobs will. And I know that's a slippery slope. I've had many discussions with Ashley Hutchison about that, and it's hard to get businesses to come in when you don't have people living here to work those jobs. So I'm not saying I know the answers, but I'm just a little concerned about us jumping on a pool thing too quickly. And I'm glad to see this survey. I apologize because I've been scrambling and I kind of printed off just before I came here, but I do like the idea of the survey and kind of hope that we get some good input, and kind of like the last two gentlemen talked, kind of the will of the people, hoping that kind of we, you know, live by what the residents want in Concordia. So, but beyond that, I guess nothing unless you guys have any questions for me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your
Appreciate your
comments.
input.
Thanks, Ryan.
Anyone else could make a comment? Yeah, want to?
Yeah, my name's Robert Thomas, and I'm a taxpayer too, and I see y'all bringing bottled water from China Central or somewhere, so, oh, you got city water. But you mentioned there was a slick way of getting money. Well, so was a sewer plant at $6 million leaving us in debt. You know, that on a maybe it needs fixed. You pay a company $7,500, find another company to jip us out of a $2 million deal. I have a neighbor that worked for a sewer company, Dale Knight's his name, out in California, and they built a whole sewer plant, brand new, in California for $6 million for 100,000 people. And the city can't even afford to put blacktop mix in a pothole in front of my house because they ran out. The town's broke, and everybody else is broke in it. I know people that can't even afford the reconnect fee. I've taken them out to the rodeo grounds and airport park to fill up bottles for them to flush their toilet with, wash their dishes and stuff. So I didn't know even you had a survey going because I was afraid to open up my envelope, see how bad the water bill is already. That I just kind of put them in a file, look at them every once in a while. So you'll all be dead and gone when people are still paying for the $6 million sewer plant. Probably, and, this town will be flat broke. It's already broke, the country's broke, the state's broke, so, thank you, that's all I got to say.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment?
Question, is that survey gonna go out to e-statement? How's that work?
The reality is that we were going to have that as a item, an old business, to discuss the pool improvements in the survey. So that conversation will be taking place here relatively soon as to how we move forward with it. So if you want to stick around, you'll probably find out. So we'll be waiting to find out as well. That'll be part of the discussion.
Yeah, we want to get it out to as
Well, the
many
reason
people.
why I asked was there's, some other things, because I was trying to analyze the water bill here a while back, and I'm like, didn't understand half what I was looking at, and I had to get the decoder ring thing from the front office here, because it's not in the e-statement that explains what the charges are on the.
My decoder ring came in after 5 years of being a water customer. I don't know if yours will be soon.
He's still working on it.
Because I was really confused, and after she sent me the thing that explained what I was looking at, I understood it, and it's not in the e-statement, I was gonna get it, so.
That's something that we've discussed as well, is that it is difficult to understand that, and it
I had no clue what I was paying for.
I appreciate that.
We appreciate these comments tonight, really do.
Okay, one last try. Anyone else would like to make a public comment?
Thank you for the invitation to come and speak to you.
You can speak anytime, Gary.
The invitation is always open, and I think that's one of the concerns that we have. I know that people address me in private, sometimes more maybe than I would like, but not really. That's the job that you've tasked us with, and that's the job that you've elected us for. And so for us not to be approachable isn't prudent for this position. We want that feedback, but it's hard to hear from everyone all the time. And so when folks do come forward and make public comments, it helps us. It does help guide us and show us what we need to be seeing that we might not be seeing otherwise. So we appreciate the feedback.
But in all fairness, we gotta do a better effort getting out to the general public too.
Sir, I remember when concerned citizens were down here, they were told they couldn't talk. And then they decided they had the First Amendment right to talk, and then they said, well, we won't listen. You can talk, but we won't listen.
I generally,
It hasn't been coming since. So.
That'll never happen here, sir.
Well, it has happened.
Well, that's past. I can't do anything about the
I
past.
know.
But I sure can about the
This
present
is the
and
first time I've
future.
heard it in a long time.
what I would say, and my work is in conversation. I'm a clinical social worker by trade, and conversation is good, but conversation has to be constructive. And I am of a general mind that I rarely want to bring a problem forward unless I have a suggestion in place. It may not be the suggestion that moves forward, but it's a suggestion that's going to take place in the conversation. Conversation needs to be civil and it needs to be direct. So I would not invite someone to come up here, yell, scream, and harass. That's certainly within your First Amendment right. But in order for us to have constructive criticism, constructive conversation, it's got to be civil. And we would certainly welcome that conversation.
At the same time, we gotta be willing to listen. And that's a must.
Well, I better wrap this up while I can then, huh? This time we'll close public comments, move forward with appointments, the Planning Commission.
Once again, November 1, a couple of terms are up. LaDonna Pelletier and Troy LeDuc on the Planning Commission. And we've advertised with no input, and both of them have agreed to serve another term. So we recommend they get reappointed. LaDonna's been on the Planning Commission for longer than I've been working for the city, and Troy's been on, this will be his third term, I believe. And we haven't had a meeting for a while, haven't had a cause to, but they both do a good job, so we recommend reappointing.
We'll move to reappoint LaDonna Pelletier and Troy LeDuc to the Planning Commission.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Parker and seconded by Commissioner Hash to reappoint LaDonna Pelletier and Troy LeDuc to the Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. Moving on to old business, pool improvements / survey.
Okay, the survey was in the packet. You can let me know what you want changed or added. We did decide that we needed to add a due date on there. We forgot that. So it would go out on October 19th, and we would ask for it to be back by November 7th, which is the due date of the water bill. So they would have the full amount of time.
So November
To return
7th
it.
is when you want it back?
Yes.
Okay.
Which then that just makes it easier if it's the same date as the water
Sure.
bill. And that's when likely people will turn it in, because they turn it in right when it's due, so. The water bill.
May I ask a question about this survey? Why are we not why don't we include some of the prices on there so people can actually see what the money's gonna be going to?
Yeah, we can also add that. Actually, I think that would be a good idea, because we're not talking about millions of dollars, or
Right.
he was talking about bonding, and that's not, I mean, we're not talking about a structural change at all. We're talking about adding slides, in the amount of 50,000 one year, 80,000 another year, and the middle year is less, but.
Because I think you get more positive feedback if people could see the prices and see what they're kind of expecting to see over
Point
the
of order.
3 years.
Well, I mean, I did show what each year is supposed to be on this.
Okay,
But it's not, it doesn't show the total cost of the feature.
But if we did that, then people would feel a little bit more confident saying yes or no, because if they put yes, they're like, oh, Jesus, I didn't know what the prices were.
At this point, I appreciate that dialogue. That might be more prudent for an individual conversation and not an appointed meeting, just as a rule of order.
I just wanted to ask.
Fair enough. I don't like being the mean guy with the gavel, but we are charged with, it's a good question. I appreciate the question. I think it makes sense. But that's the section under which the public comments are there. You didn't know to ask the question, so and there's a fun little book I have, Robert's Rules of Order, that is a real page turner. It's really exciting.
You're halfway down with that.
Everyone turns into things.
Yeah. What are
And
the,
we are, and we did include it on there, but we are suggesting only the $2 a month for 3 years, and it would end. Would also like to point out, Charles is still here, that we did have the authority to raise up to 4 mills in our budget this year, given all the exceptions. There was the tax lid law, but given everything that it takes into account, we could have gone up 4 mills, and we did keep it even, 1 mill for the library. But I just wanted to note that we could have done it, but we are trying to get the community involved and get some response, so. Anyways.
one of the things that I noticed about the survey, which I appreciate you putting that together, I wonder if it's appropriate to call it a vote, because in fact, it's a survey, and I'm afraid it might be rather confusing, because there are people who probably won't get to vote because they don't pay a water bill, and yet they somehow pay taxes in this community, whether it's through their rent. I mean, so it might be a
It might be better
minor
to say, I
point.
support
Yeah.
a $2 monthly fee.
That's a good idea.
And there was something else that I
If
noticed.
yes above, you can even just take if you vote, if yes above, would
Yeah.
you like to see free admission?
And the other thing I thought about, can you scroll up a bit? Yep,
Yeah.
that way. Mhm. I think we should take out the first part of that sentence, if you voted yes above, would you? I think it should just say, would you like to see free admission to all? Because I've
That
talked
feedback will
to
be good, too.
a number of people who are, that is an independent question, you know. There are people who, and I think Mr. Carnes mentioned this, that there are people who really don't think that the admission should be waived for anyone. So I think there are two separate questions.
I agree.
Well, as long as you're changing it, since it's kind of
Well,
going
I
that
expected
way.
many changes.
Now, what I'm thinking is, they go back to where you have the first year, what the total of it, the total would be the first year, what the total would be the second year, what the total would be the third.
That we collect in a,
No, of the equipment,
oh,
the
right.
cost.
Yeah, what it would cost.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Now, okay, that, all the funding, the first year, for example, for that slide is not going to come just from
Understandable,
that.
just the cost of the equipment,
Okay,
because the other
because
part
we're
of it
taking
will be
about
towards-
40,000 from a different
Yeah.
area.
And that, tell me again what fund that's coming
The
from?
Parks and Recreation Fund.
Parks and Recreation, and that comes from
Alcohol tax,
alcohol tax.
So drink more, everybody.
right, we support.
That cannot be our legal advice.
And Amber, while we're talking about the pool, a couple of things I'd like some homework done on, in case the vote comes back, if the people are okay with the whole thing. I'd like to know what the additional cost of the insurance is gonna be, because of the liability of having the slides. I would also like to know if there's any additional cost to chemicals and the number of lifeguards, because we're gonna have to have lifeguards up on top. You just can't let kids go to the top of these slides by themselves without.
Well, they already are
supervision.
estimating they're gonna need one more lifeguard. That was in some information we received
But we're gonna
earlier.
have eventually 2 slides and a wall, so we're gonna have to have one on each.
They anticipated that we would need one more lifeguard than what we currently have, when it's all completed.
That the lifeguard that's sitting in a chair now could not only sit in that and watch that area, but expand that vision. You wouldn't need one per.
I'd like our city attorney to check on that, because I'm not so sure. When you have little kids climbing the top of a slide and then pushing other kids up there without supervision at the top.
This was based on the Water's Edge that gave us the pricing, and also upon, I guess, just experience in the places that I've been and what I've seen, and
But
that's
I'm
just
looking
what
for
I.
law,
In general, when we will get these things, in these, let's say we get a packet from these folks, and we decide this is the slide that we want.
right.
They are going to say, hey, you're gonna need somebody here, you're gonna need somebody here. That'll be outlined there. When it comes to the insurance, we checked all that.
I think Stacy's somewhat checked, and they didn't expect any.
Yeah.
As far as insurance goes, I can check for sure, but I'm almost 100% sure that it won't go up. With Midwest Public Risk, it has to be a pretty significant amount, like when we added that, well, we didn't add the Alco building. When we added the new part of the shop and some things like that.
Now we're dealing with a slide with kids,
Yeah,
so
they,
I'd like it checked.
okay, I can. I have talked to them about equipment before, and they never said there was any issues with it. I'd be surprised if it goes up, but I will find out for sure.
And now I'd like to
Thank
know
you.
the maintenance cost, the equipment, keeping it up to date every year.
And in general, with that depth, a lot of the times, so this first one with the yellow slide,
Yep.
in general, you're gonna have somebody at the top telling them to go, because that's where you're gonna need to regulate those kids going down.
Right.
When we're talking about 3 feet of water, there's going to be a lifeguard likely in a stand. Sometimes they will kind of troll in the water, for lack of a better term, but not always. So it just kind of depends on what we're looking at, what we're doing. Those big family slides, generally, there's not somebody at the bottom, there may be somebody at the top.
Well, I don't worry about the bottom, I do at the top.
Sure, exactly, and that's the most important place, because that's where you can keep them from going.
Right.
Everybody going down on top of each other. So-
And that's what I'm talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
On the Water's Edge report, for each item that they talked about, they had a page that talked about the maintenance and what they, all the requirements for it.
Okay, with dollar amounts?
No, but
Well,
clean the
that's
slide
that's
annually and
important.
annual slide inspection, so once a year. But actually, it's less than the required amount for an annual inspection, so that wouldn't even happen. But there
Dollar
is,
amounts is all I care about.
I know, but I really don't know that there's going to be that much dollar
Well,
amounts.
they should know. If they have an inspection, they must have a fee with it. You need to find out.
Well, we're not
what
gonna
it
need
is.
to do that annual inspection. That was if we got the taller slide. We're below the, what is it?
Below, it's.
15 feet?
15 feet or below.
We're below the
So
15
For 15
feet.
feet or above, there's numerous inspections and different regulations with the new law that came into effect.
So they require no maintenance, is that what you're telling
It's
me?
not that they don't require no maintenance, but these yearly inspections and stuff that, whatever this, I don't remember what department is now off the top of my head. Essentially what they've done is they have set up, we're gonna have this organization that's gonna come in and we're gonna inspect these. But the fact of the matter is right now, they don't have anybody to do it. And so even those above 15 feet may not even be inspected for the first year or two. Below 15 feet, there is no, I mean, you don't have to have this annual inspection under this law. Now, that's not saying that we get to like fall into disarray or anything like that. We can't do that. But that annual inspection she's referring to right now does not apply for the 15 feet or below. And that's just talking about this, the Kansas Amusement Ride Act, I think is what it was.
So it may seem prudent to have a conversation with other towns that have pools that have slides and see what maybe impact, maybe on the listserv, any impact in maintenance.
I have spoken with Wichita. They have, because I went to this site specifically of these slides that we're looking at, and they have one at one of their pools. And I spoke with the rec director in Wichita, and he said they've had it for 14 years, and they haven't had to do any work on it, actually. They do, he explained what they do for maintenance, which is some sort of, I don't want to say, like wiping it.
Probably to
and
keep it
inspecting
slick.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
And inspecting it with their lifeguards every day, just like you would any of your other equipment that's there. And that they've been really happy with it. I mean, it was not an expensive slide to begin with, and that's why I was worried and did that. I did try to reach out to a few places because with the cost of the slide, it just made me worry how it was. But they've had it for 14 years, and he said they don't plan on replacing it anytime soon.
Well, there has to be maintenance inspections on the thing yearly.
Well,
There's nothing required.
There's nothing required by law. I would agree that we want to inspect them.
But the fact is, we can't wait till someone gets hurt on it,
Absolutely.
and then
No,
we
no,
say,
I
oh
absolutely-
my gosh, we
Should've
didn't
fixed this
need
2
to
years
check
ago.
this thing.
Well, I don't think,
I absolutely agree with that, and that's something that we, with our policies and procedures.
We will be, we will have
We'll be
a
checking it
procedure
daily.
just
Make
like,
all the bolts
just like we do
secure.
now with the
Right.
diving boards and everything else. I mean, they will be inspecting them to make sure that everything looks good to go, so. And I'm sure, and I believe that the handbook, everything that comes with it when you buy the slide will detail that all out. But it's not any more than a matter of what they can do on their daily preparation for the day like they do now.
You know, if this thing would go through, we just need to know what our costs could be, worst case, medium, and not be surprised by it and say all of a sudden, this
Sure.
comes
And I
up.
think it would probably be worth going back, if this goes through and we start that process, is revisiting that law and showing you, and I'll stand up here and say, here's what would apply to us.
Okay.
Which in that, this new Amusement Ride Act that actually regulates a bunch of different things, but the water park stuff was the paramount thing. We don't, that under 15 feet, that threshold there, once you're under there, it doesn't, the regulations are about what they were, which was relatively nil here in Kansas, so. But it's definitely worth revisiting, and we need to know, here's what we should do.
and,
Absolutely.
and our obligation, and I think one that our staff generally do a very good job with, is maintaining the stuff that we have. So whether this becomes something that we have, our staff are gonna maintain it, they're gonna keep an eye on it, they're not gonna let it just fall apart. It'd be good to have some numbers to associate with it.
I'd like to visit about the survey further.
Yes.
I think Sam had a good idea to survey our folks. But I think then you mentioned if somebody doesn't send one in, we assume that that's going to be a positive vote.
That's all we can assume.
I think we need to look at that.
The only other way you can do, well, let me go back then. And maybe what we ought to do then is take the step forward, and if someone doesn't turn them back in, we call them.
I think we should try to make this as scientific as possible. I think we should shoot for 50%. And if we don't get that, I'll be willing to set it a phone and try to call some people until we get to that point.
If we have
But
a,
just assuming if somebody doesn't send their survey in that they're for it, I think that's probably a wrong assumption. So I think in that case, we need to be calling more
Okay.
people until we get that
I totally
50%.
agree. I think that's a
or so.
great idea.
Yeah.
I do.
And
so.
as far as the email that he had asked about, we had planned on, for each of these, I guess I also didn't say here, as you see, there's a number at the bottom, and we were planning on numbering them because we don't want them to be photocopied and a whole bunch of ones coming in randomly from the same people, and that will happen. So we thought if we numbered them, then we can keep track of that, and the ones that are emailed out would have their own numbers as well, and they'd get each one per email. We can attach it. Obviously, that'll take a little bit of time, but they're so excited to do it in the front office.
So since we are very
Need help.
cost conscious on this, will this be a standalone page?
Yeah,
could I suggest that it be printed in black and white to save on the color printing?
Well, then it wouldn't look as exciting and colorful and fun.
I understand.
Will you mail out?
Which almost, we feel might be worth the extra added cost, but
It's probably gonna be about, I mean, it won't.
We'll
probably
print it on
use
our
all
color
of
printer.
Yeah, we could print it on our color printer, and we already figured we could buy a new set, which I think costs $350, and it probably won't use all of that ink.
So for color, it roughly will cost $350
I mean,
in addition,
at the most.
over what we would spend for black and white.
I would say it will probably use
the
half
black and white
or
will cost
less
something,
of
but.
those.
Now, those of us that get our water bill through the email, will we be sent one?
Yes.
Okay. Sent one through the mail?
Through
Or
the
an email?
Through the email, right, yeah. just
And for us to
attach
get it back, we'll need to print that out and
Well,
bring it
or
in.
we have the option, we thought, maybe to hit some of the people that pay online. Take a photo with your smartphone, yeah, I guess I should have. Take a photo with your
You have to be
smartphone
under
and
35
email
to
it
do
to,
Yeah, you have to.
that's what we're going for right now.
I can do that, you can do it.
Isn't that what the pool's for?
Timber's already done that.
Okay,
Make this
well, we'll figure
easy.
out a way to
That's
get
why
it
we
back
also
to you.
said make sure to include the full page, because we do need to see the number so that we can include that in our spreadsheet that we will have.
Now, I can scan.
But I think we'll get, that's fine too. We just thought that that would be more intriguing to people. Ooh, I can take a picture of it and send it. I'll do that right now, so.
It's generally a family tradition of ours to figure out just how complicated we can make something very simple. It seems like I'm in a good place.
You know-
The whole purpose of this is trying to get feedback from the public. It's trying to make it a very, as informed of a decision as we can from as many people as we can. We can't, so few votes in this country, period, get a 50% voter turnout.
That's our usual return on surveys, like,
So-
Really, it's that high?
For our LMI surveys, if we don't get 30% back, they don't accept it.
but you had to go after some people to get that amount. It didn't just come in, so
And with
50 is,
and with that, then we open ourselves up. So you had Chuck calling, huh? Well, I know the families he's going to call to get the survey votes. I mean, I can make 6 phone calls and probably get 24 positive votes back. Is that skewing our results? I don't want to overcomplicate this. I want to get people's input. It's going to go out in the water bills. Vote yes, or offer your suggestion as to what you would like to see in the positive or negative. Return it. We'll do the best we can, and if we get the results we're looking for, then we can make our decision. And if we only have 5 people turn out to say yes or no, then that tells us that this clearly isn't an issue that our community's invested in, and we can just skip it.
I appreciate the idea of trying to make this as scientific as possible, but we can't. If it's not an election, it's not an election. And I honestly think we should just
Well, let's see what we get.
accept
you
it
know?
based
Right.
on what we get.
You could note that. You could note in there that, decision could be based on the amount of, reception that we get from this. It doesn't hurt to put that in there to cover your bases. There's nothing wrong with that. Being that it's a survey, it's unscientific, for lack of a better term. We can accept what we get. And we might want to put that in there, say, hey, you want to have your voice heard, we're accepting them, and we'll accept what we get by November 7th.
I think we can, at this point, we can only offer the invitation, just as we do with so many other things, and those that accept that invitation to offer feedback will do the best with that feedback that we can. We'll also try to make the best decision that we can for this town and do it with the best faith that we can.
I agree.
Can I add something before I don't want to jump in, since we're looking right at the screen, we had talked about taking, if you vote yes above, off, and just saying, would you like to see free admission at all?
Mm-hmm.
I want to think maybe we might want to fix that, adjust it in some fashion, because here's what I'm looking at here, and here's what I'm afraid people are going to see, 2 separate votes. I vote for a $2 monthly fee. Well, no, I don't want that. Oh, but you're thinking about a free admission to the pool. I don't want people to get confused and say, well, I don't want the $2 monthly fee, but I do want free admission to the pool. Thinking, well, we might not get that, but gosh, who doesn't want free admission to the pool? I don't want that to be.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Where
everybody
somebody
vote
might
just
think
for
they're
that.
voting hard. Yeah, and I think you might get that, or you might get somebody who's like.
So what
"I don't
about,
wanna pay an
if
extra $2."
if we move forward with improvements, would you like to see?
See free admission to the pool, something along those lines. I just don't want folks to get,
Yeah, but I don't want them to think that the only reason they can vote
yes.
on that second item is
Sure.
if they support the $2.
So if we word it like you just said, if we go forward with the improvements, would you like to see something like that?
Free admission to the pool.
Do you, yeah, but they're, yeah.
Which I think that's going to be a relatively easy question to answer. But I just don't want somebody thinking, well, I don't want that $2 monthly fee, but wait a second, you know, that didn't pass, but everybody voted for free admission to the pool. What's going on?
Honestly, that feedback is what I'd be interested in that feedback as well.
Sure. So which way would you like it then?
That's just my 2 cents. We can keep it that.
No, I'm interested in the answers in that as a standalone,
Sure.
as a side anyway. I would say I support a $2, this would be my wording, I support a $2 monthly fee on my water bill, same language. It's
Just make
moving,
Just make it one question. And
And
free admission to the pool, yes or
You
no?
got people that are pretty torn on that apparently by Facebook.
I think there
I
should
think
be
there is some debate about that, some fairly significant
Well,
debate.
People don't mind
Two
paying it and
lines.
paying
Yeah,
to
I
get
see
in,
that.
so.
If we, and I'd say for this, like, if we move forward with improvements, would you like to see free admission to all?
Say that again, if we go forward with the
If we move
improvements.
forward with
Yeah.
these improvements, would you like to see free admission to all? And honestly, I mean, I would put a line under the bottom and just say comments.
Well, we were going to do that, and then I was told that we were gonna get comments all over this anyway, so. I mean.
Did you say that you can make
I mean, I don't
anything
know.
simple
Like
complicated?
you'll have it up the side.
Yeah.
you'll have it up the back.
That would be one way to do it.
Well, I would rather sit and read comments than to be on a phone-a-thon.
Well, yeah, I don't want to do that either particularly.
I'll do it. We need to get as many people here as we can.
It's interesting how much feedback off the record we're receiving on this. It'd be good to get some feedback
Well,
on the record.
I think that citizens are given an opportunity to talk to commissioners or to complete a survey. And if they fail to do that, they've had their chance.
I agree.
Or they could show up to a meeting.
The
And
opportunity's
some
here.
have done that. I don't see the utility in that.
Well, and a lot of my
Agree.
conversations the last couple weeks have included some point, what do you think about this $2 fee, people here in the town? I mean, I've been seeking input on this. And I'm sure you guys have too.
Mhm.
So do you have,
I seek it, they've come to me.
Okay,
as
so
they have for me as well.
we need to make a decision.
I think, do you have the edits that you need to move forward with this?
Yes, I was just double checking that we're not gonna be able to bring it back at the next meeting, cause we will have to have already had it done, cause the bills would go out the next day, so.
Is there any, then question more that you have for us in moving forward with this survey?
You pretty much understand what they want, right? Did you want the comments then, or no? The comments spot, or just accept that there will be comments on there anyway?
I'm fine with that as well.
I would
I
like
don't-
to see comments on there. I mean, just-
There's gonna be, so.
Yep, I think so too.
Okay, then we're
And I'm
good.
sure somebody will be happy to compile all that. and-
Let me just make, because we're not bringing it back, so I'm going to put the cost of the equipment under each thing, under each item, and then we're changing I support the $2 monthly fee, and then, if we move forward with these improvements, would you like to see free admission?
Or would you support free admission to all?
Very good.
Just to keep it all consistent.
Similar language, very good.
And, I'm going to add at the bottom that there's a due date of November 7th. Okay.
And, okay, gosh, I'm sorry. As you say December 7th, you might just say comma this, or November 7th, comma, the same day that your water bill is due, just to help.
It's yet another reminder.
Or, just a heads up, you can respond in.
Well, I don't know when this November 7th is, but I know when my water bill is due. So if this is due the same day my water bill is due, okay.
Which
Why don't they
also
not
happens
pay?
to be election day, I believe.
Yeah, well, we got a lot going on.
There you go.
Please vote.
Yeah, right.
Please vote, yeah, that's a, oh, why not?
Just one page.
Sam on there somewhere.
And can we leave it to their discretion about whether or not it's in color or not?
That's fine.
Right.
That's fine.
We'll leave it to you guys to decide
I
that.
think those color cartridges are good for 10,000 copies, if I remember right, so that would be about a quarter, well, less than a quarter, because many of them are emailed, so.
And it may be to where it's all so close to it that it doesn't matter.
Where's that color copier at? I could really use that. Which room is that in?
Right out front.
Meanwhile, back to the meeting.
Moving on to new business. Demo program application 1226 East 7th Street.
This was on the agenda last week, but some
Mhm.
changes had to be made at the last minute, but got an application from Michael Carl Buss for house at 1226 East 7th to be accepted in the demo program. And, I did have a issue with, but we, not having, being able to do it till next year, but he wanted to get the application in, so he'd be high on the list. And we've recently come in some money from the state rehab program refund that we received from someone selling a house before the loan was up, so they had to repay that back on a prorated base, which came up to about $2,700, so we'll have the money to do it. And it's been a house, as you can see from our report, it's been empty for as long as I can remember, and it's in pretty bad shape. So it's acceptable to the program. I recommend you accept it based on the low bid from NCK Services LLC for $4,600.
So what's he plan on doing?
Actually, the niece of Carl and him came in together to speak of this, and she wants to rebuild on that site.
Great.
Okay.
I can't say that's gonna happen. I get all kinds of wants, with that kind of thing, but, she seems pretty serious about it, but how much she's explored cost of new construction, she's been asking lots of questions about pre-manufactured home and the rules there, beyond a trailer house, I would say, a mobile home. So we're looking at perhaps a pre-manufactured two-piece home, has to be on a permanent foundation in residential zoning, that kind of thing. Has to look like a residential design. Doesn't have to have a basement, it could have, so we'll see. But that's their plan at this point in time. Whether that comes to fruition or not, no guarantees.
I'll move to accept 1226 East 7th Street into the demo program based on the bid from NCK Services LLC for $4,600.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Pound, second by Commissioner Parker to accept 1226 East 7th Street into the demo program. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. Moving forward with ordinances, 2017-3125, grass clippings.
Okay, went back and made some of the suggestions, made some of the changes that you guys had suggested previous meeting, or study session. I'll point those out right now. The very first one, is in subsection B, which is definition of public street or sidewalk for the purposes of this ordinance shall include alleyways. Previously, it had been, it wasn't included, but we had suggested that it was. Went ahead and did change that. And then C has not changed. Actually, C did change. So we had talked about the enforcement mechanism in this and making it more of the onus of it put on to the citizens to report something, that we're not going to be policing this. So what I did on subsection C, you'll see that I put upon notification from an individual of a potential violation, comma, or an investigation by the city of Concordia. So it doesn't just limit it to citizens have to do this. What I'm trying to do here is if there's a violation, we can just take care of it, as opposed to somebody coming in and arguing, well, wait a second, it had to be reported by an individual, or vice versa, the city has to take care of it. Trying to cover our bases here, so in the event that this is actually used, it can be used properly. Next up, is D. Now this is where we start to talk about landlord tenants and commercial landscapers. D, you'll see here, I put in liability for fines under this ordinance for the purpose of this landlord-tenant relationship shall be governed by the lease agreement upon who is responsible for maintenance of the exterior of the leased structure, including but not limited to mowing, debris removal, and overall care of the exterior of the dwelling. Such an agreement is absent. When such an agreement is absent, either from a written lease agreement or the absence of a lease agreement overall, because a lot of our lease agreements I am finding here in the city are actually not in writing, believe it or not, then the overall responsibility shall lie with whomever caused such violation to occur. Okay, so if there's no lease, a lot of our leases are not necessarily going to say, well, most leases that I see, they're actually in writing, do say who has to care for the exterior of the dwelling. But in the event that it doesn't, it's going to fall on more than likely if it's not in the lease, it's the person living there that's going to have to maintain it. So that's why I kind of put it that way, so that whoever caused that violation to occur, and more than likely it's going to be the tenant there. In subsection E, for the purposes of commercial landscape for hire, including but not limited to mowing, debris removal, and overall maintenance of the exterior of a dwelling, responsibility for fines assessed for violation of this ordinance shall be the responsibility of the individual hired to conduct work on the exterior of the dwelling. For the purpose of this ordinance, a commercial landscape for hire shall be defined as any individual hired for any type of compensation to conduct work on the exterior of a dwelling. That will keep us from someone saying, well, I wasn't paid money. Sometimes we swap services. Sometimes somebody says, hey, I'll give you my whatever if you'll, maintain my yard or whatever it may be. I don't want us to be able to have somebody come in with an argument saying, well, I'm not technically commercial landscape because I wasn't paid cash. So those are the changes we made. It's a little, I don't want to say it's complicated. I hope it covers what we need to cover. Inevitably, I'm sure there'll be some issue at some point in time that may come up that hasn't been addressed. The one thing I did want to point out is that I didn't include in here, and we may want to change that, and we would probably be in subsection C where we talk about the violations of this ordinance. We had mentioned briefly in the last time we discussed this is that maybe the first occurrence would be a warning. I don't know if we still want to do that or not. With the way this is worded here, I guess an officer, if they investigate it, could give them a warning. They have that discretion to do that. But, if they're convicted, then if they're found guilty of violating this ordinance, then it's going to be at least $20 and no more than $100. So,
I think that's discretion that the law enforcement officer would be able to maintain.
that is agreeable to me, if that's agreeable to everyone else.
Does anybody else feel different?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Actually, I like the way it's written. I'd like to see something similar to that to the sidewalks, because they are a danger.
Yes, we had talked about the sidewalks, and that's, we've got a few projects maybe, or a few
But I'd like-
issues to address.
I like
Yeah.
that along that same type wording.
Okay, perfect. We can certainly look at that as well.
Thank you.
I haven't been a big supporter of this. Observation, last Friday, on our way out to the airport, the city crews were mowing along Highway 81, and Mr. Mendenhall was doing his very, very, very best to keep that mower right on top of the curb, because those high vacs, as long as you have that suction, you're shooting things out. But as soon as it was tipped, on the opposite side, there was just a row of grass clippings, in the highway. And again, he was doing the best job he could do. We're going to be criticized for things like that when our own city crews, whether
Sure.
accidentally or on purpose or whatever that happens, and I think we should be ready to take some heat.
And I don't know if we necessarily want to add that in there, but, we can allow for whoever may be enforcing this, whether it's, law enforcement that goes out and checks it out, or if it, whoever would be levying a fine, whatever it may be. They will have that discretion. If I'm out there and I'm mowing and that kicks it onto Highway 81, my argument's going to be is that there was a safety concern. I'm not going to take my leaf blower out into 81 and dodge semis trying to get the grass off the highway. So I think there's some leeway there, kind of with anything. We can leave some discretion there. I don't necessarily want to put in wording on safety, because then that opens up, safety becomes a very open, very, very, very open definition. So, somebody may say, well, I had a twisted ankle and it wasn't safe for me to walk out into my residential street and sweep it. So I do believe, there's, like I said, there's gonna be issues that we don't foresee, or maybe we do foresee, that are gonna come up, where somebody's gonna say, hey, but wait a second. Well, the way we have this built in here with, most of this is going to be some of the very first wording here in C with the enforcement mechanism here is upon notification from an individual. Okay, somebody might say, well, heck, he gets to do that and he never well, we have to be notified of these things as well.
Yeah.
So there's that, but I do see what you're saying is that, I mean, some of our folks, sometimes, no matter how hard you try, it may not.
Yeah. And on the way back, Highway 81, the grass clippings were all gone. And I'm saying, traffic blowing them all around. And I'm saying, why do we need it in the first place? If a day or two from then, they're all going to be gone anyway.
Sure.
So anyway, that's
Yeah. I think the main problem
all I'm
with
going
that
to say about that.
Maybe they clean
And
them
maybe
up.
so. I wasn't there to see that. Maybe the
I
city
mean, I would
staff
hope
got the
that
broom
the
out and
city-
swept it up.
If they did that and those glass cubes were thick enough where they were still there, they go back and clean them up.
Well, and I think that is exactly kind of what we're looking at doing here is, if it's something that, is that significant that it's still there, then gosh darn it, it should have been cleaned up.
Right.
So, yeah.
I don't think that there's any intention for us to become the lawn clipping police. That's certainly not our goal. That's certainly not our ambition. But this has been one of the greatest things that's been brought to our attention time and time again, and there are folks who have repeatedly seemed to discharge their entire lawn's worth of clippings right onto the street just for it to be somebody else's problem. I want to ask you to be a good neighbor. I can't tell you to be a good neighbor, but this is about taking care of your belongings. We wouldn't just have people throwing branches into the street. Doesn't make sense to do this. I don't want to police legislation, but we're asking folks to take care of their stuff. And if this is what we have to do in order to do that, we're not going to be the lawn police, but we don't make us do that either.
Yeah.
Take care of your things, and this isn't a problem.
It's there in case we need to use it. We're not going out and actively and necessarily enforcing this, but we have something here to enforce in the event that there's reports or it becomes something significant enough that law enforcement sees, or whoever may see it and say, gosh, this has become an issue for a while, or even, a significant issue just one time. So, we're not gonna go out and actively patrol, but,
Then why have the ordinance if we're not going to enforce it?
well, no, we will enforce it,
So-
but, with section C, where it's upon notification from an individual. So we're going to enforce it when it's reported to us, when that issue arises, but, we don't have to necessarily go police it to have this. We have this in place here to say, hey, listen, this is in place. This is an ordinance in town. You can't toss all this stuff out on the street. Whatever it is, grass clippings, debris, whatever it may be, you can't do this. And we are going to enforce it. I mean, we have it defined, built in there already. Just because we're not actively patrolling for it I don't think necessarily means we're not enforcing it. We're just not, there's a lot of stuff that we have that we don't actively patrol, we don't actively enforce, but they're there so we can use them in the event that they need to be used.
Semis parking on residential areas. that
Don't
we
get me
have
started on
laws.
that. Yeah, no, I've seen the
And,
damage that they can do,
yeah,
too.
and
Curbs,
so
everything.
if the law's there, we need to enforce it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree.
That's
Yeah, no.
all I have to say.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
Well, move to approve ordinance 2017-3125.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Parker and seconded by Commissioner Sacco to approve ordinance 2017-3125. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Moving forward, manager's report.
I forgot to bring this up last time, but Ron said there was some interest in 433 West 8. That's the last Wells Fargo house that we got, now an empty lot, and there's some interest in people purchasing it. Would you be interested in putting that out for bids?
433 West 8th.
I don't know if we have any other use for that property.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Because that'd be a
Yeah, probably one
empty lot that we
more.
would have to,
Wouldn't have to mow.
yeah.
Okay, we'll get that done. Moving on to pigeons, I walked over there today and nothing's been done, so I would suggest we move on with a nuisance letter unless you have any other ideas. We tried just the regular letter, and I think that was at least a month ago.
That was before
Yeah.
I would be
week
fine
before
with
Fall
some,
Fest.
because there's a lot of interest in this. I've heard a lot of talk about it.
Jessica's
we need to
getting a
know.
lot of complaints over there from the business owners on that side of the street. And,
I think we have an issue real similar to the ordinance that we just passed, that we want people to be able to take care of it themselves, but we have ordinances in place to be able to help add some teeth to this if we need to, and it sounds like that we've tried to do this so yes, I think it's fine to move forward with it.
All
That,
right,
I don't know if we
we'll
need
do
to,
and then the last thing, a couple of you mentioned that you wouldn't be here for the next meeting, so we need to decide what to do about that, because we won't have a quorum. So,
That's what, the 18th?
yes.
Okay, so what, we probably need one, don't we? I mean, what's it kind of looking like? I know we
yeah, that's the
skipped one
question,
before.
whether we
Move it to the
would have
11th.
anything on there. We
Okay, move to the
skipped a
11th.
meeting this summer, but it's
My-
not,
My suggestion would be, since, as it's been published and people know that we're interviewing city manager candidates, the decision for that meeting might be impacting our decision whether we want to have it on the 11th or move it later. If we are able to move forward on the 11th with something, then it'd be good to meet then, but if we need to push that back, then it might be better to have it.
25th. then.
Mhm.
The 25th, I won't be here.
Okay, and then now the 16th through the 20th, is that completely out? I'm not sure which two commissioners are
I'll be gone that,
the whole week,
that whole
right?
week, yeah.
Okay, okay.
I'll just be gone that Wednesday evening.
and we can do it any day. It doesn't need to be a Wednesday.
Well, and Christie being gone, but if Chuck can be here the rest of the times, then that's
that gets you a
viable.
quorum.
Can we meet without you?
I don't know how you could possibly. You would miss
It
my
certainly wouldn't be as
charm.
informed of a meeting.
We wouldn't look as good.
I'd say kind of, let's just see what happens and what our need is.
So are we thinking we're gonna have a meeting then on the 11th? Is that what I am
Well,
hearing?
depending on where we are in that search process, we could, but if we had to meet, if we had the opportunity to meet that early, we could.
Mhm.
Or if we needed to push it back, we
Mhm.
could do that, which we might be in a position where we'd have to have a special meeting anyway, depending on where we are in the search process. The 18th is a pretty convenient spot, but,
Yeah.
so if we get green light and we're able to move forward with everything we need to move forward with, then we can meet sometime that week, but if we need to wait a while, we probably need to set up a meeting the week after anyway.
Well, as much time as we all have invested into the search process, I would not want to deny a commissioner the chance, the opportunity to be here if, we are making a decision or introducing a new city manager. I think that's kind of an important thing for all of us to be here.
I agree with that.
Can we make it, no, Sam said he wasn't gonna do it.
I won't be here the 23rd.
Maybe the 23rd?
If you have, no, that whole week I'm
Okay, the
gone.
whole week, Sam.
It'd be a lot more peaceful without me.
Well, let's go ahead and
Yeah,
schedule
can you
them.
do the
for
end of the?
Yeah, what about the 12th then? That gives us an extra day. I mean, it's 6 days early, but
I would be fine with that. I don't think I have any conflicts.
On what day?
the 12th?
Thursday the
Yeah.
12th.
And still keep it at 5:30? It'll be a special meeting, so you can call it whenever you want, but, the media can get the word out too.
Oh,
Okay, then that's not gonna work.
what about Friday?
It's against my personal policy to do anything professional on a Friday afternoon.
So you could all do the 11th, that was right? Somebody had something.
We could do the 11th.
Yeah.
We could do the 11th.
It's just, it sounds like that's,
Hope that everything's done by then.
we can anticipate the 11th. If the 11th isn't feasible, then we can move it to
We can,
a different
this
date.
isn't set in stone.
Right.
Okay, 11th.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioner comments.
I'll go. Actually, this is a question for Ron, but I don't think that, I'm guessing you really can't do anything about it. I just happened to be driving over the overpass today, northbound. I usually go a different way, I guess. It seemed like there were really big cracks in that northbound lane. Is that under our jurisdiction? Have you, could you just check it for me? I mean, it was
Yeah,
kind of
well-
rainy and,
Cracks on, towards the north end?
yeah, on the north, no, it was on the south end of the viaduct, but in the northbound lane.
Okay. By wood oil there.
Yes. I don't know why I didn't
I'll
just
look
say
at it.
that.
It's not the expansion. units, right?
I know,
Well,
it's
it could
not, they
be,
look
but
like
there's,
cracks.
there is some big cracks in there on that approach going up.
Well-
It's before the viaduct, right?
No, it's, it was on the viaduct, because I turned there by Wood Oil.
There's some expansion kind of things
I
built
don't
into
think
it.
that's what this
I'll
is,
look
but
at
if
it.
you could look at
But
it,
the
I'm not
approach
an
goes clear
expert.
up past Monty's building almost before the bridge starts. And that's
Oh,
where
maybe
usually
that's what
most
I
of the
saw.
problems are.
I just thought if those are cracks and we let it go into winter, it's probably gonna be a royal mess by the time. But
I'll look at it.
you're the guy who's in charge of the streets, so you have a better idea than I do.
I'll go look at it.
Okay, thank you. And I also wanted to thank the city staff, Stacy and Amber in particular, for the good job of hosting our candidates for city manager. I know it took a lot of extra effort and took, some of our department heads away from their usual, including you. So, and you still have 2 jobs to do, each of you, so I wanted you to know that your effort was noted and appreciated.
Well, and even the Skype interviews.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't have anything.
2 things. 3 of commissioners were out at the fly-in last Friday, although we didn't hang out together to create any problems. But while we were standing there, Steve Richard came up to us and said that our engineering firm out there is seeking a mechanic for, an airplane mechanic, and we need a hangar. And there's state folks out there that said something about the FAA being able to build hangars, and it may not cost the city too much. And, I think we ought to look into that quickly, and if that is something that they need and we can react to that, I think we should.
Lyle, I did get a chance to talk to Brad Waller about that.
Okay,
And we do have them executive hangars down the road
okay.
on the master plan of the airport. He said if we'd start jumping out of our sequence for that, right now, they're probably just gonna throw it out.
Ah,
Throughout the master plan.
Well, throw out giving us the money for the hangar.
plan, okay.
Because
But
right now,
it
I
is
think-
true that FAA will fund a hangar. I mean,
Yes.
when we
Well, it
get to
seems
But
that.
like
it's in
that
our,
was part
it's in
of
our
the
master
plan.
plan, but it's
Okay.
clear down to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we would've started out putting the hangars in and then, doing that other stuff later, it'd been probably okay, but we put the airport out there first, and, like the next thing in line is the design for the runway and stuff, and then actual construction of it. You're looking at probably $10 million there. And the reason they did it that way is because we thought the hospital was coming and was gonna get that match there to help build it.
But it sure seems
So-
like maybe this is a current need, and there'd be a way we could do it. We probably need to talk to our airport advisory board to see if that is a
And
fact.
if it'd be worth
'cause Steve
going back
actually
to the map.
Yeah, Steve actually said it would really change the dynamics of our airport. Instead of everybody going out to have maintenance, these guys would be able to stay, and people would be coming in.
Yeah, I know they do them over in Beloit, a lot of the maintenance over there. Me and Larry looked at this, probably, it's been a while back, but we had a guy that wanted to come in and do it, and he was wanting 50 to 60,000 a year until he got his business built up for 5 years. And then you had to buy tools and stuff for him, and it was just way out of line,
Well, it seemed like,
and I mean,
This
it's
was gonna
gonna,
be on there.
and like he said, it's gonna take 5 years to build a business. Like, if he could've just stepped in right when Charles Herman left, not Charles Herman, Herman Hill,
yeah,
when he was out there, it would've been better, cause then he could've took his clientele, But now you gotta go in there and you gotta advertise and you gotta get these people to fly in. and they're already getting their maintenance done somewhere else. And I understand, you know, you got Steve, and we got probably 15 planes out there. Even if they all come to him, you know, you ain't got a month's worth of work there. So,
Told them we'd bring it up, so we've
Okay.
done it, so.
Okay.
I mean, we could probably look into it again, but I bet you the cost is still gonna be up there until somebody builds a business.
Okay.
Cause they can't come in and work, you know, a day here and then they ain't got nothing to do for a month.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
I think having a conversation about it would be, is maybe revisit that and what all would be involved in revisiting that would be maybe the
Yeah.
first conversation.
Sounds good. I think we should, those folks out there, we should let them know that our door's open because we appreciate
Right.
them coming in and doing what they're doing, and so we need to be as
Yeah.
accommodating as possible.
Right.
to
And I
them.
know, you know, we're pretty, the hangars, I've got about every one of them rented, so
Yeah.
everything's full.
Yeah, it just seems to me that the FAA would at least listen to, okay, yeah, this is our master plan, but some things have changed, and now we wanna go with the hangar first. You know, just to kinda look at it and see what's out there.
We kinda did that on this last application when Steve and Evans, cause Steve wanted a fueling system out there, and the Pappy lights, and I'm trying to think, there was something else. But they applied for that, and FFA threw it out because it wasn't within our guidelines, and that's why they went with the parking lot.
Okay.
So it's,
Well, thanks for trying. Yeah, that's fine.
So, thank you.
Stay right there. About 4:30 this afternoon, I got a call from Delbert Hattisall. And he said, Commissioner Pounds, would you meet me in the cemetery? I thought, okay.
And you did it.
And I did, met him in the cemetery. He was standing next to he and his wife's stone. I thought, oh gosh, we probably took a big nick out of it, but that wasn't the issue at all. It appears that sometime we had backed over to dump some dirt on, looks like maybe Don Cart's family plot there in Rodney's. And as, you know, we just kind of sunk in. And I said, well, I'll pass that on. I said, if it's not taken care of in a week, give me a call back. But I said, hey, you know, it's wet out there now and predicting rains tomorrow. I said, they're not going to do it right away. So
it was,
anyway, take a look at it if you.
Hattisall?
Yes,
Okay.
Delbert. It's on the
You know-
west side.
You know what, on the west side?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, thank you.
I'll look at it.
Okay, thanks.
Take care of it.
That's it.
Commissioner Sacco?
Nothing.
I'd like to echo statements that Christie made. Being out at the airport, having an opportunity to talk with some of the pilots that flew in, spoke very well of our community, spoke very well of how excited they were to see a bunch of kids out there that were really excited and knowledgeable about what airplanes are about and what they do. It was really great to get that positive feedback, with the opportunity to show Concordia around, show some folks around Concordia these last couple of days. Just nice to be able to say it and realize how fortunate I think we are to live in Concordia, how fortunate we are to have staff that are as dedicated to their jobs as they are. You know, and talking with candidates, sometimes you got to try to work to sell it, and I didn't feel like that at all. I feel like Concordia sells itself. I think that we're a fantastic community. I'm really proud to be here, and I want to vocally express my appreciation for all of you for making it that. It's just really cool to be able to have people come to town and say, hey, this is a pretty cool place. Yeah, it is. It is, and these people make it happen. So, thank you for that. Moving on to staff comments.
I should have said this when I was up here just a minute ago, talking a while, but if you guys get comments like that, you know, tell them to call me. I'll go out there and visit with them, like at the cemetery, at their yards, or they find a hole or something. I go check it out. I mean, it's part of the job.
I didn't think quite fast enough, I guess.
Well,
We also
you know,
do
they
that.
don't, if they come to me, they can bypass you,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I can do that.
So to do that, would we send them through the city office?
Yeah, just,
Through the
and
phone
if I'm
number?
not in here, they can put it on my phone, or they
Right.
can leave a note or a message or something. I'm pretty good about returning calls within a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had a guy call me about his sidewalk there. He said, I found a sidewalk. I'm not for sure what it is. But, yeah, he had the whole front of his property was covered with grass. There was that much dirt on top of it.
Huh.
And I got down there and he was uncovering it and cleaning it up. I said, good job. It's his, you know, it's their problem to maintain it and everything. They're supposed to do that, but
Which they don't.
he just thought it was unusual.
No, there's a lot of sidewalks here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just
Sidewalks
cause
is
of
fine.
time.
No, imagine the grass probably didn't grow very
Yeah.
well. over
Went out and met
there,
with
so.
them, so.
Until you trip on it.
Anytime. I mean, you know, if I'm on vacation, it might be a day or two before I come back and, but most of the time they can tell them.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Back in June or May, we had an ISO inspection, which is our insurance rating. We was at a 5, we was hoping to get to a 4. We got the results back and we got us down to 3 with the training
Ooh.
and stuff that we've done.
Wow.
So,
Wonderful.
You're not gonna see a lot on homeowners insurance, but businesses, it will make a difference, so.
That's great.
And that was
That's good.
publicized and out now, so if you have a business, you might check with your insurance carrier if they go off ISO.
I will talk with my insurance agent this evening.
That's kind of forward.
About the only conversations we have. Tim. Any other department staff comments? No? All right. Next item on the agenda is the executive session. 6:50, I would say 8 o'clock. Think we'll be there for now.
An hour and 10
Is anybody
minutes?
getting invited, or?
Could we just do like 40 minutes, and then if we need to, we can go
That's
back
fine.
in?
That's fine. No, it'd just be the 5 of us.
20. No. At 40 minutes.
So 7:30?
So it'd be 7:30.
Do you want anybody invited?
I think just the 5 of us.
Okay. I move the city commission recess into executive session to discuss city manager candidates pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception, KSA 75-4319 B1, and to reconvene in the city commission chamber at 7:30 PM.
Second?
So moved by Commissioner Hash and seconded by Commissioner Parker to recess into executive session to discuss city manager candidates pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception KSA 75-4319 B1, and to reconvene in city commission chamber at 7:30 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Do we have to read the whole thing again?
Well, you got the media here now.
Ordering pizza?
Yeah. We were leaving that to you.
Well, I didn't know how long you were gonna be here.
I move the city commission
Hey,
recess.
where's the stack, the white smoke and the black smoke?
I move the city commission recess into executive session to discuss city manager candidates pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception, KSA 75-4319 B1, and to reconvene in this city commission chamber at 7:50
AM?
PM.
No, I said I had to be to work at 7.
It's been moved.
Oh, second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Hash, seconded by Commissioner Parker to recess into executive session to discuss city manager candidates pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception KSA 75-4319 B1, and reconvene in the city commission chamber at 7:50 PM. Day of our Lord 2000. October 4th, 2017.
Aye.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. No action was taken.
You saw the black smoke.
I'll motion that we, motion that we adjourn for the night.
Okay, we'll start again at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I'll bring breakfast. Hold on, no, we don't open till 7, never mind.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any further discussion?
One further discussion, we are gonna do a special meeting on Wednesday, I hope, right?
On the 11th.
Mhm.
Is that- yeah.
For sure. Unless things
sure.
change. At 5:30, right?
If that's what you want.
Yep.
Yeah, works.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.